Welcome back to the Real Power Podcast. I am super stoked today to have an awesome guest across from me, Anthony Butera. Anthony is the broker and owner of a Keller Williams franchise, both here in Rochester and now in Buffalo, New York as well. And he's just a really talented businessman. I follow him from afar. I'm inspired by what he's doing, and I'm just excited to have him on the show. So, Anthony, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you. Glad to do it.
I was telling you I was listening to a podcast of you last night, and feel like I kind of already know you and know your background and story, but for those listening, take us back. How did the whole world of entrepreneurship start for you in real estate specifically? How'd you get into everything?
So as far as entrepreneurship, I would say 2012 when I got my real estate license, right? I was doing construction prior to 2012. I was literally up until 2012 swinging a hammer. I was a union sheet metal worker and no college degree, struggled in school. And I just felt like there had to be something more, right? And the journey was kind of ironic. I mean, it's funny to look back and reflect. I literally Googled, how do I make an uncapped income with no college degree? Real estate popped up, right? Google led me to that. Click the link. New York State pre-licensing 75-hour course. Click the link. Next thing you know, I'm taking an online course. I'm doing my due diligence. I didn't really know anybody in real estate. A friend of mine, Pete Stoller, he was actually working at the real estate board at that time. And I was like, dude, what do you think? Do you think I'd do good? He's like, I think you'd do great. He says, I see some of the other people that have found success. And if they can, you can
do it. Yeah.
Right? And I kind of always needed that boost, right? Because a lot of times you see people will think more of you than you think of yourself at that time. So my confidence was always gained through others and how they saw me. So I took the 75-hour pre-licensing course. Google led me there. Google told me to save enough to live for 6 months. And that's what I did. I saved enough to live for 6 months. And I jumped in 100 miles an hour. And I joined a team when I got in. It was great for me for about a year. And then I realized, I want to do things my own way.
Sure.
I wouldn't change my journey for anything. It got me in front of a lot of people, was able to gain a lot of experience through transactions, right? Because I don't care how many years you've been in real estate, experience is gained through transactions. So the more transactions you can get through,
Reps,
the better you become, right?
Yep.
Yeah, just like anything else, you got to do your reps. So I started in the business at Remax Plus, right on Monroe Avenue in Rochester. Had a great experience there, and first year sold 57 houses.
57 in your first year.
Year one. And it was funny because, 75% of those transactions, they came together the second half of that year. But I mean, when I look back and as I coach and consult agents today, and I reflect on what I was willing to do, and I'm not kidding you, I had a laminated piece of paper, and I was calling the white pages. I grew up in the town of Greece, and I knew of a lot of streets and neighborhoods, so that was kind of my confidence. Grew up in a big town, and I had that same script. Hey, Mr. Johnson, this is Anthony Butera. At that time, was with Remax Plus. Hey, I noticed that you live on this street, and I know you're not interested in selling your home, of course, but I wanted to know if you knew of anybody that was looking to sell in the next 3 to 9 months, because I have buyers that are looking specifically in your neighborhood, right? So asking it in that way, not selling anything to you,
them
right?
specifically, yep.
But the byproduct of that conversation is, well, actually, right, we are considering, we're looking to either downsize or move down south. And don't get me wrong, that was the one out of every 150 call that went in that way, right? Because the reality was, you had to get hung up on a little bit.
Yeah.
And I remember I would show up every day, and I'd have that same laminated piece of paper, and I would call. I was fearless. I was fearless because I was filled with fear, and failure wasn't an option. I didn't have a college degree to fall back on. The outlook wasn't good. I got out of construction because Rochester's economy at that time was in shambles. Nobody was investing in the community, and we were out of work, right? So I had a union membership. I was one of 400 members, and the last few years I was in it, there was never more than like 125 working at a time. And I was running out of my health benefits, and a lot of these guys were okay with it. But I wasn't raised that way. We're workers. If you're a Butera, you're going to work. I'm the product.
Get your hands dirty.
Yeah, I'm product of 2 Sicilian immigrants, and if there's one thing that they taught us many things. Most of my life lessons come from my parents. But we were going to work, and growing up, we didn't see them a ton. We were getting watched by family members because my parents were always working 100 hours a week. And then they actually owned a deli. They would go there when they got out of their full-time jobs, and it didn't stop. And what I knew at that point was work was going to be the conduit to get me out of any financial situation that I wasn't accepting of, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted something more, and I was like 31 at that time, and I was like, there's got to be something better. This is 2012. Yeah. That's when I jumped in.
Yeah. So I remember hearing with cold calling, you had a really cool mindset about it, about how every call would make you money.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So every day, I was the first in the office, and I knew I had to start my calls, and I committed to 150 calls a day. And I realized that my conversion was that bad at that time because I didn't have confidence in my voice, or it wasn't felt on the other end of the phone. So once I figured out that about 1 out of every 150 was converting, well, every day I can turn something into an opportunity or a piece of business down the road, right? So, everything in our business, it's mindset. It's the number one things that agents struggle and burn out, and a lot of times, most of the time, actually, they get out of the business. Negative compared to positive mindset, and an abundant mindset compared to one of scarcity. And I remember once I figured that conversion rate out, and I figured what my average sales price was going to be based on the average sales price in the market at that time, I remember it was like $20 for every phone call I was making, right? And I was like, wait a second. Hey, Mr. Jones, fuck off.
$20.
Right? Now I'm starting to hear cash register, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to rejection, because we all fear rejection, right?
100%.
And every time somebody not interested, leave me alone, never call me again, take my number off your list, blah, blah, blah. As soon as I changed that mindset and I started equating that into dollars,
turned it into a game.
Oh my God. So I went from showing up to the office, making a pot of coffee, pacing, avoiding jumping into the phone calls, to speeding to the office, to jump on the phone, to make those calls, to provide opportunity, to pay myself.
That's incredible.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was a mindset shift that I needed at that time.
So for new agents, do you still think, in the world of technology, social media, everything, that cold calling is a very effective way for a new agent to kind of get some traction?
I always say to prospect on the budget that you have. At that time, I had no budget. I had no money. I literally had enough. And I set myself up to survive that first year off making $15,000. And that was I planned on ramen noodles, and I owned a home. I had a car payment, right? So that was... And at that time, my mortgage and taxes and all that, I figured it was probably like $800 a month at that time. So I planned on living on nothing, right? Because I didn't ever want to enter a career, because I knew in the back of my mind, if I said, okay, well, if you don't make $5,000 this month, you're out of the business. And it wasn't me, it wasn't ever chasing that shiny sports car. That wasn't for me, it was just survival.
Yeah, you weren't driven by that. It was just survival. Yeah.
So going in and listen, fear is not a motivator that you should have forever. And some of the largest business owners in the world, they're still led by fear. I think over time the fear dissipates because you realize that you have a skill set that you can succeed in any industry. I think fear just turns into, there's a healthy level of paranoia you should have in your business, right?
Yeah.
So that changed. So if I'm a new agent today, I can tell you that you do have it easier because of social media. Perception sells, right? Perception can become a reality. So go ahead and lean into that. Because let's face it, it looks like every real estate agent that you see on social media is making millions of dollars a year. Yep. It's just not the case. Mm-hmm. What people don't realize behind the curtains is it's a tough industry. And social media is great. And I also feel like it causes a lot of the problems with agents today because, a personality, if you have a good personality, you can make good money. If you have a strong social network, you can make good money. And they hit that, they plateau, right? And it's tough for them to break through that ceiling because they're not willing to do the activities to break through that. And they're never okay with settling, shit, I only sold $3 million again this year. That's what I did last year. Well, nothing changes if nothing changes. So the agents that are able to break through, that are willing to get uncomfortable, are the ones that continue to grow, or at least hit a level of business where you're good with that. You know the activities that are required.
Yes.
But then the market says, here's what I got in store for you. Then you got to sit back and you got to burn things to the ground. You got to be willing to try different things. And when I reflect on my journey, I was having this conversation with somebody today that was asking for advice. Like, I've literally burned everything I was doing to the ground and started. You got to be willing to start from scratch, right?
How so?
Meaning, like, I'll give you an example. So 2021, my team sold over 500 units, right? And we grew every year prior to that. Our business was growing substantially. And 2021 brought it to a whole nother level. We went from 400 units to 500 units. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, wait a second. Next year, we're going to do 600 units. I have a staff right now for 400 units. I need the staff for 600 units. I'm going to hire before I need them. I want, right? We've got so much good momentum. So I want to have the people in line today so our team could succeed at 600 units and 700, right? Yep. Because historically, everything has told me since I got in business from 2012 to 2021 that the business was going to grow every year because it did.
The data's there, yeah.
And then 2022 came, and the interest rate, oh my God, right? And the interest rates go from 3% to 6.5% at that time. Now we're hovering over 7%. And it was the first time ever in real estate that I sold less homes from one year to the next. And I realized that I can't live like that. I can't be a part of something that's not growing. Mm-hmm. Can I? Sure. My energy goes down. My attitude is different. Playing from behind is not a feeling that I enjoy. We're all motivated to do more with momentum than we are playing from behind. Just because we're behind, you would assume human nature would just force you to do more. But the reality is we want to stretch it. Once we have momentum where we're actually ahead of the year prior, we want to push it even more. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it's kind of funny how that works. So 2022 happens and we realize that at that point, I'm sitting here, I'm going, oh, this is catastrophic. I can't be a part of a business. I can't lead a business. I can't lead an organization that's not growing. It was foreign to me, right? And reflecting now, 2022 happened for us, although it felt like it was happening to us, right? And we started everything from scratch. Yeah. We got less dependent on internet leads. Because to me, that's where, and you see a lot of agents that are doing a lot of business that are giving a lot of their income to internet lead companies. I'm a broker owner, so I can't really name too many because they're also brokerages as well that actually supply some of these leads. And it's just bad habits. Agents are willing to give half of their commissions up to a company that's providing them with a lead that most of the time they're not even good, right? So last year, I think there was 4 million homes sold in the U.S. and there was like 16 million leads sold, right? So that equation doesn't really work so leads. Well. Yeah. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I was heavily invested in internet leads, but the ROI on our investments was there. I remember I was investing in one lead generation company. And you used to invest in zip codes, right? So you buy a percentage of the market share in those zip codes. And my worst ROI was 3x in one zip code. My best one was a 15x ROI.
Holy shit.
So the numbers just made sense. And then what happens? You become dependent on these leads.
You're like, this is easy, yeah.
They change their entire platform and they say, hey, I know last year you owned this percentage of the marketplace. Well, we're providing more leads. So now we're going to take all of the current investors in this zip code and we're just going to double it. And so I'm sitting back and I'm going, wait a second. If the Rolling Stones are going to play at New Era Stadium, right? If that's what it's called still today, I don't even know.
Yeah.
Highmark.
Yeah.
Highmark, right?
Yep.
If they're selling, if it holds 70,000 people and you sell 140,000 seats, that just doesn't work.
Doesn't add up, yeah.
Right? And at that time, our business was so dependent on it, and it showed up because for my team, not the brokerage itself, but the Anthony Butera team, we were like 75% buy sides, 25% list sides. And because we were spending so much money on leads and the ROI wasn't there anymore, I couldn't afford to hire talent to improve the consumer experience because we were suffocating our ability to do so. We had to keep buying zip codes. So I watch teams today, and when I see people's business and you're 75% or even 70% buy side, I know that you're not providing a consumer experience to get repeat referral business. You can't afford to, right? And I had to go through that, and I had to get better, where now our team, we got our margins back. We're making more money. We actually sell more listings than we do buy sides, which is almost unheard of from a real estate team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But instead of investing money into an internet lead platform that left you vulnerable, I invested it into human beings, right? I invested it into an operations team. So now, instead of only selling to strangers, people are coming back to us because it's not just about working with my team and licensed real estate agents. It's working with my director of sales, lead list agent, lead listing coordinator, transaction coordinator, client care coordinator, marketing director. We're running it like an actual business now, right?
Yeah.
So in real estate, and it's a really tough conversation talking commissions with everything that's going on, but 99% of the time, we're all charging the same amount of money, right? So how do we differentiate ourselves from the competitors? Well, you have to change the consumer experience. And the analogy I always give is, well, hey, listen, if you wanted to go and you wanted to have a boys' weekend in Miami Beach and you guys went on Expedia and you went to go book a room, well, if the Four Seasons was the same price as the Comfort Inn, where are you going to stay?
Oh, no doubt.
You're going to stay at the Four Seasons. So the only way as real estate agents we can truly differentiate ourselves is to change that experience and provide that Four Seasons
Customer
experience.
service, so huge, and it's something that I really attribute it to a lot of our growth early on. Is that's all I cared about.
Yeah.
Every agent that worked with us, I want to make sure we blow your mind with not just the quality of the photos and the video that you're getting, but do you like working with us? Do you like the quick service, the customer service? And it's such a fundamental. It's just fundamental to business success. It really is.
So if you want to do more transaction, you can't be transactional. You've got to be relational, right? When you're relational, the byproduct of that will turn into more transactions with
100%.
people you want to do business with. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to work with strangers the rest of your career. Maybe you work with them once and they refer you to friends and family because they trust you and they had the greatest consumer experience.
Yes. Do you think a new agent should be joining a team when they first start out?
I think it's a great way to start, right? I don't think it's the only way. And if you are not going to join a team, make sure you join a brokerage that has training, right? Productivity training, coaching, and mentorship, because it's going to be so important. You're going to have to attach yourself to somebody. You need to have that person that you can go to, right? So if you're not going to be joining a team, join a place that's going to give you a fighting chance to survive. Because and still to this day, and we do a really good job at it, at Keller Williams here in Rochester and Buffalo, and it's still the number one challenge. I mean, you know, the failure rate getting into real estate, right?
What is the statistic?
Oh my God. 87% don't make it out of their first year. And 75% of those don't make it out of their second. That's right?
Crazy.
The odds are stacked heavily against you. So how you start is extremely important, and who you're in business with matters.
Yes.
Right? So I always give the analogy when we talk about like how successful is our productivity coaching program or our new agent mentorship program. Well, whenever you look at any dynasty, we'll use the Patriots, for example, right? Of course, everybody knows the years they won the Super Bowl, but they don't pay attention to the draft picks they made 5 years prior to that, right? Yep. And although it's not a piece of your business, as a brokerage that provides you a ton of money, it's needed, right? If you can develop somebody from a newly licensed agent and be a big part of their success and their journey, they're going to get sticky. They're going to stay at your company, right? So like anything else, like my team and like the brokerage, your value proposition. And you need to be willing to change, just like I had to scrap things for my own personal sales team. As a broker, you need to be willing to scrap things all of the time, because the reason that somebody stays with your organization today will not be the reason they stay next year.
100%.
And
So
you got to pivot.
And they got to know that, like, what is the value if I'm choosing you over someone else? What are you going to do for me in my career?
No doubt.
You talked about doing a lot of smaller transactions in your early days, and that allowing you to almost be more of a safety net, because you didn't have to wait for a big commission if you only had 1 or 2 listings.
Yep.
How important do you think that is for a new agent starting out?
If you're new, you probably have an abundance of time. Take things on that you're probably not going to be willing to take on 5 years from now. And I say that when I got started, and this is when the price point was much lower, of course, as 2012 compared to now. I took on everything. If there was a $20,000 investment property, people would just hand it out. I still see it today. Who wants this lead? Who wants this lead? Well, you're telling me you're struggling in your business and you're too good to take that on. So for me, give it to me. I took everything, and I never judged it, because you never knew what that was going to turn into,
Sure.
right? Maybe that person that was interested in that property is a repeat investor.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a home to sell that they personally live in the next few years, right? So coming from somebody that was just looking to get a steady paycheck, I never minded those deals, because although the commission may have only been $1,000 or maybe even $700 or maybe even $500, if I could put one of those together a week and then still did other transactions,
staying afloat,
it's cash flow.
Yep.
Every business, no matter what business you're in, requires cash flow. Without cash flow, it becomes crippling to your organization, right?
Do you find that those smaller $25,000 deals are more of a headache than the larger deals?
It depends. If the buyer is realistic, it can be a lot easier. I grew up on the west side of Rochester. My average sales price on the west side is lower than the east side, but I got to tell you, I enjoy working with the people that I work with, right? And don't get me wrong, I still sell homes on the east side. I still sell $1 million plus properties, but I enjoy the experience working with the people that I work with.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not. I don't fight to improve my average sales price. It happens over time. But the reality is transactions are the key to a sustainable business.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
100%.
Way more important than you trying to gain that average sales price or chasing that luxury market.
Yeah.
You can get there, but it shouldn't be your primary focus.
And like you said, over time, you can get to more luxury and 100%. What's your opinion on the current Rochester market? Where are we going?
Well, if you didn't think it could get any crazier, just wait. We're going to kind of be in this funky spot that we're in right now for another year. Interest rates are still going to be higher compared to where they have been historically. And as crazy as, I just pulled the data yesterday. I looked at the last 5,000 real estate closings in Rochester. 48% were cash deals.
Wow.
I don't know where everybody's getting this cash. I feel like that's running out. Yeah. I don't know where they're getting it. I feel like the cash is running out. But what's going to happen is when these rates start to recede and we get back into the 5s, which I suspect will happen in the next 12 to 18 months, When we didn't think our average sales price can get any higher, just wait.
Boom.
Buying power is going to continue to climb. Desirability is still going to be there. And now all of these sellers that are currently sitting in a home with a 3% interest rate, they're going to start to jump off the fence. And once we reach something that looks kind of like a stabilized market compared to what we're in right now, it's going to be bananas. Our average sales price as of yesterday was $250,000. I think once that happens, it'll shoot up to $275,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bananas. It's complete madness.
And with that being said, right, we talk to buyers all of the time, and they're going, well, I'm not buying in this market. Well, what are you waiting for? Do you know what you're waiting to happen, right? You can refinance that interest rate, but that home is going to increase in value over time. So the only thing you're waiting to do is pay more.
You're leaving all this equity on the table.
God. And you know, I own a lot of real estate. I have a lot of investment properties. But, you know, I was never the one looking to steal something, right? I don't need to steal anything. I'm still young. Time is going to get me through any worries that I have of paying retail or overpaying, right? And listen, if you're an investor and you're in your 60s, maybe you look at it different. I need to get a good deal now because I only have so much time left.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I've never looked at it like that. And I've got people that I asked to get into some deals with me, and they're like, I'm not paying that much money. Well, what do you mean? You're 30 years old. This property is going to triple in value in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Time is going to get you through that.
I think people underestimate that so much. Everyone's looking at the cash flow today. It's like, just take the long game approach to it.
Yeah.
So what's your portfolio look like right now?
So around 30 doors, and I have a few commercial properties. But the key is I don't have mortgages on many of them.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I don't have, for my residential ones, I only have one residential investment property that still carries a mortgage on it. And honestly, it was kind of my, it was my way early on when I started making way more than I set my life up for, right? We were talking like, I just needed to make $15,000 that first year. Well, I made a lot more, right? It was the first time I ever made six figures. So it's like, all right, I know myself. I'm not smart enough to know where to invest it. So why don't I just invest in real estate? I'm getting in front of these deals.
Yeah.
I'm working with these investors. That was my way of saying it's the only way I know I'll save money.
Smart.
So I took that money and I started buying real estate. And this was 2012, 13, 14. I started buying quite a bit. And
that's right
all
when
of
everything
those,
started going
oh
up.
my God,
too.
all of those properties from then till now have tripled, right? It's crazy. So I've been the beneficiary of that. So I think that is where I kind of have that view of time is going to fix anything that you're concerned about overpaying, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, and you know, I'm kind of more enamored now with commercial. I've liked that. To me, it's a lot less headaches.
Apartment buildings?
I have one smaller apartment, but so one of our offices, one of our Keller Williams offices, I own that building.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And partners with Chuck Hilbert, who's my business
Is
partner.
that on Long Pond?
Yep, that one's on Long Pond. So I own that building. I wish I owned the one that we were at in Brighton. They won't sell it, and
not yet.
Not yet. Exactly. You never know. We'll keep asking.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's not like, you know, investment property. It's not my primary focus, but I'm always making sure that continuing to add to the portfolio.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Super smart. And I'm doing the same. I purchased my first investment property a couple of years ago, bought a duplex,
Nice.
Lived in half of it, and it paid my mortgage for me. And I just urge everyone who's young, that first property, find a way to hack your housing.
I got so many people. I've turned so many people into investors when I got into real estate because I'm getting these leads, right? And I'm working with friends, and at that time they're not making much income, so I get them in front of a loan officer, and they're like, "Hey, I got so and so pre-qualified, but they can only spend $75,000." And then the day that the loan officer told me, I learned for the first time. But if they got into a 2-family, they can include the rent from one of the units as their income, so they can actually qualify for $150,000 or $125,000. I'm going, wait a second. So once I knew that, I'm explaining that to my clients, going, hey, wait a second. Why don't you buy a 2-family for your first one? Because now you could spend this much. And after collecting rents for 2 years from the other unit, now you could include both sides of that 2-family to pre-qualify for something else. So I actually turned a lot of people into investors unintentionally, but they're thankful for that today.
Absolutely.
Right?
And on top of that, you get an owner-occupied loan and get to 3.5% down, 5% down to get into these investment properties, which would normally be 20% down minimum to get into them. It's such a hack.
And to own that asset where now life changes, and maybe you're getting married and you want to start having kids. Well, let that 2-family fund that 4-bed, 2.5-bath colonial.
So smart.
Yep.
So smart. I shout it from the rooftops about how it's just, you can get ahead of 99% of people if you just make a good couple decisions when you're younger with real estate. Let's talk about leadership. Leadership is something that I continually trying to get better at, and I see you leading teams and people.
I've had to learn.
How do you become a good leader?
Yeah. So I can tell you that I was blessed in the family I was born into. My parents and my brothers, right? Like, I don't have to seek heroes out. My parents and my brothers are definitely my heroes. And I watched the way that my parents treated people and gave the shirts off their back to people. And there's tons of books on servant leadership. I've read a lot of them. And it always, for me, it circles back to my parents, what servant leadership means, right? Considering yourself last. And I'm a different person than I was. I owned a brokerage prior to Keller Williams, and my ego cup was filled. I was 2.5 years in the business, and I was a broker owner, and I was doing big things in real estate, and I confused myself. And what I mean is, I thought I knew more about life and real estate in 2016 than I do now, because I'm learning based now, and I'm always seeking, I'm always seeking something more, and leadership, and I'm obsessed with it, and I've learned a lot about it, and I think that people confuse intelligence and influence. Right. And a lot of people think that their intelligence will automatically make them influential. And I see people crash and burn all of the time. If you don't genuinely care about somebody else's well-being more than your own, you reached your ceiling. So for me, I have a unique perspective, because my ego was what I was chasing. And then when I started hiring people, I didn't realize what 100% of me was until I was responsible for another human being.
You got to put food on their table.
Dude, it's way different, right?
I'm feeling that now. Yep.
It's human nature to let yourself down, but you would let yourself down before a stranger.
Oh, yep.
Right?
Yep.
And when other people are depending on you showing up and earning and supplying their family,
it's a different level.
It's completely different. So a lot of people think that they are leaders because maybe they own a business or they have a team. And it's considering yourself last and sometimes never is what makes you an actual leader, right? And I watch people and I see the way they respond to things, and a lot of times it's the way that I used to respond. And of course I've developed as a business person, and I'm a much better business person, smarter business person than I was back in 15, 16. But the reality is I'm a way better person. I've grown more as a human being than I have as a business person. And, and it's taken coaching. Yeah. Right. So between my Keller Williams offices in Rochester and Buffalo, Oh my God. It's honestly, and we have coaching for people that are in leadership positions within the company as well. You're probably talking $20,000 a month that we pay in coaching for our people.
Big investment.
Yeah, it is.
But it's so important.
And even for myself, I still have a coach, Jason Mancuso, who runs the day-to-day of my team.
He's your coach?
Jason, no, we have a coach for him as well,
got it.
right? Our director of operations on our team, she has a coach. I'm obsessed with coaching and improving. And
you're never too old for a coach.
No. And what I've learned is I'm not good at much of anything. I'm not.
That's the mindset I have too.
Yeah, I excel in my relationships. I create a safe working environment for people. And all of my success has truly been through other people. Right. So I look at my team and listen, I get the accolades. It's the Anthony Butera Team. And I stare at these awards and most listings sold in the state of New York. And it sounds really cool and I sound really cool. But the truth is, I have wrapped myself around people that do everything that I used to do way better than I ever did it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And that's such a limiting belief that people have to get over, like, no one can do it as good as me. And it's
and they're never willing to hire anybody because, it needs to be done my way. Well, congrats, you hit your ceiling, right? And it really is. It's and for me, it was easier to give things up because I was never obsessed in any one of the processes, right? And what I mean is, you get people, I love working with buyers. And it's all I want to do is I want to work with buyers. And you get burnt out, right? And it starts to go from a passion to a job. And the moment something started to feel like a job for me, I got out of that avenue.
Yeah.
To me, I got to stay in my passion lane. And right now, I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what that's going to look like for me. I still don't know what I want to do when I'm older, and people laugh about that, but it's the truth. For me, I'm so loyal to real estate because it's been so good to me. But if you would have told me 5 years ago that in 2024, I would love coaching and consulting other agents and helping improve their life, I would have told you were crazy because it was all about me. Yeah. And my ego was my ceiling. Right. And everyone has a little bit of an ego.
Sure.
But how you treat others is extremely important. And as long as your ego doesn't damage those around you, then fine.
I also heard a saying that money and success is an amplifier of who you are inside. Because a lot of people jump to the conclusion that, money's bad and power and like greed. And it's like, if you're a good human being with good intentions and you become successful, you're only going to magnify that more. Whereas if you're a shitty human being, you're going to be even shittier with more money.
Money's good for the good it can do, right? And money's not evil, right? It's allowed me to do certain things and help other people. I help a lot of people in my life. I have a non-for-profit that I also give back to.
What's the name of that?
IAC Kids. It's about caring for kids. My brothers and I and my cousins, we formed this in 2012, actually. And we've raised millions and millions of dollars for local families whose children become extremely ill. We kind of partner up with Golisano Children's Hospital. We work with their social work team to identify the families that are in need of financial assistance. And once we identify them, we literally take their bills over while they're going through that with their child so they can spend time with them, right? Because typically your child becomes ill and either mom and dad have to pull themselves out of the workforce, and expenses are an all-time high, income's at an all-time low. There's nobody to cover that gap, right? Especially if you're a working class family, if you pay for insurance, if you could predict that your child was going to become ill, you'd want to stop working and jump on government assistance, because we are blessed that we live in the best country on the planet where your child's still going to receive the same type of care.
Yeah.
Right. So back to the money piece, like, it's allowed us to do certain things like that and give back. So it's not evil. And the truth is, you treat those around you the way they should be treated, money's going to be the byproduct of doing that, right? Whether you want it or not. And for me, I used to focus almost exclusively on the money because to me, that was what I was chasing. But the moment I stopped focusing on the money started focusing on me.
To you, yeah.
Right? The world is round and it comes back.
What do you do for fun outside of real estate?
So I have a lake house in Sodas Point, New York.
Nice.
A true West Sider before 2019. I didn't know what the hell Sodas Point was. I heard of it. I knew it was like east of Webster, was Wayne County. Didn't know what it was. And I was looking for a waterfront property. And my mom, it was funny. My mom, like, you know, if we talked forever, you'd realize that she influences a lot of the decisions that I make. And she was like part of, like, I would send her some properties and be like, well, it doesn't have sand, honey. I said, Mom, we live on Lake Ontario, right? Like, we're not on the Atlantic. And I was looking for years, and then this property pulled up, and it was an acre of sand next to the public beach. And the house was in disrepair. I didn't even pay attention to that. And I put an offer in, it gets accepted. I was so happy. And don't get me wrong, when I say it was in disrepair, the house was being rented to people, and people were actually staying there as a vacation rental, but it needed a lot of work. I mean, the infrastructure needed to be redone. And I'll never forget, I bought it, and I picked up my parents, and I told them, hey, I bought a beach house, right? It's on sand. Yeah. And I brought them there, and I remember I walked them in, and my mom says, honey, could you get your money back? Can you kill the deal? Right? But I had the vision for it, and I knew, and at that time, I overpaid for the property. It was sitting on the market. Overpaid. But I knew what it was going to turn into, and I knew what the value of that was going to be. And I overpaid. I spent way too much money in the remodel, right?
Did you knock it down, or did you?
I didn't knock it down. I could have, but I don't have any patience. And if I knocked it down, because we were right beginning COVID, I closed on it it was New Year's Eve, 2019. So going into 2020, world gets shut down. Mm-hmm. And if I wanted to knock it down, by the time the Village of Sodas Point was going to allow me to do anything, it would have been years. So they said, listen, keep the same footprint that shows up on this survey map. It included a screened-in porch, so I was able to extend the house. I cut the roof off of it. I mean, I completely redid it. I way overspent for it, but it is truly, it's my happy place. I've got the best neighbors out there, and this time of year, you'll notice I'm in a better mood because I shoot out there every weekend.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So I'll be shooting out there tomorrow.
It's your escape.
It's my escape, and it's a tourist vacation community. Yeah. And the moment I pull in there, it's like I just look at things a little bit different. So in the summertime, I work from there on Fridays. I'll shoot up there Thursday night, and then I'll leave there Monday morning. So I get my
relatively quick drive too.
Yeah, I get my time in there. And it's funny because people assume that I'm working more today than I ever was. They're like, Anthony, how the hell do you do it? But the truth is, I work less today than I did my first year in real estate, right? So I wanted to, and I only got my time back because I was willing to give pieces of my business up to other people that do it better than I do.
People,
right? Yep. Yeah. So the ROI on human beings is way better than any internet lead you could ever invest in. Yes. That's what I've learned.
That's the lesson.
Yeah.
Goals for the future. So you're completely out of production now, correct?
Yep.
More into the coaching side of things. Do you see yourself doing this for the long run? Do you have any other business, avenues you want to go down? What do you see yourself doing?
Yeah, so I'm invested in other businesses. I'm invested in the insurance world. I've got my investment properties. So I'll always be involved in real estate. I've been blessed with a great partner in Chuck Hilbert, and he's not going to want to do this forever. And so already starting to see transition into me being even more involved. And right now I'm in Buffalo than I'm even in Rochester, right? I purchased the Buffalo Keller Williams franchises in 2021, and it's going great. We're growing. And right now I'm loving what I'm doing. So for me, it's just about creating avenues of passive income,
Yep.
never being so dependent on just one.
Yep.
And I love what I'm doing every day. Who knows, right? If I stopped saying never, because the craziest shit has happened to me. I never thought I would be sitting here. I mean, honestly, it was 12 years ago. I was swinging a hammer on a construction site, right? And if you would have told me I'd be sitting here talking about this and my successes and what my future goals are, I would have laughed at
Like,
you.
what Anthony is that?
Yeah, exactly. It's an Anthony that I didn't even know existed, to be honest with you.
Well, that's the power of life, and just, having faith and working hard too. Like you just never know what doors will open for you, and
things get easier, but you have to be willing to plow through the shit, man. Honestly, there was a 5-year period. Honestly, nobody saw me.
You were just head down, like
7 days a week, nonstop, and it wasn't the healthiest way. But the point is, I was willing to do it.
It's a season.
Yeah.
You have to go through a season.
Yep. And
it's not forever.
Correct. And for younger agents, I can tell you that you have an energy right now that is not going to be there forever. Right. And you notice, not you, because you're still a younger dude, and I'm 43 years old, but you notice how your energy changes from your 20s to 30s, 30s to 40s. And I could predict in my 50s and 60s and 70s, it's going to be different. So while you have the energy and you have the flexibility,
take advantage of it.
Get at it.
Yeah.
Get at it. And if you're not willing to suffer, you're probably not going to hit your full potential. And the suffering, and again, to my life lessons, the suffering shouldn't exist forever. Mm-hmm. Right? Surround yourself with people that are much smarter than you. And I promise you, there's someone better at what you're doing right now. There is, but you gotta set your ego aside and let it happen, right? So for me, growing my businesses, and still today, I don't want to grow it to just make more money, to buy more things. I want to grow it to be able to afford to pay somebody to do it better than I'm currently doing it. Right. And again, it's back. I'm good at one thing, my relationships. Boom. Nothing else.
Boom. Do you have a favorite book?
So for me, it's the book that changed, my life and my real estate career, was the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, written by Gary Keller. I was reading about this 7th level of production, where you're out of production and hitting that 7th level of your organizational model, right? There's a level 1, 2, 3, and you start bringing people into your world to replace you. I followed that model, and it's led me to where I am today. I spend about an hour a week on my actual team, and yet I found the most amazing person in Jason Mancuso, who runs the day-to-day of my team and is providing opportunities for people like that, that grow your world, because you're only one person. So don't create your own ceilings. Let other people break through it for you.
Anthony, thank you so much for being here. Where can people connect with you, learn more about what you got going on? And
the same way I got this all started, Google. You know where to find me.
All right, man. Love it. All right, guys. We will catch you in the next episode. Peace.